I will share a little backstory to this. When I was young and I joined my first job at Citibank, and almost my first job was in Japan, and almost I spent 13 years here. Whenever I used to hear the word FSA, not your area, stay away from them. So I had this fear by hearing the word FSA day and night. There's something difficult to deal with. And life turns out to be very different for myself. After 18 years with Citibank, I became a regulator. And look what happened to Singapore. We became friends with the industry. And so do Japan. And we have the Chief FinTech Officer here, right here, interacting with all of you. And I think things have changed. Maybe before I start, Eva, why don't you give a bit of a Swiss flavor to how regulators are becoming very close to the market and how things are getting easier to interact.
Hello, everyone. Hi, my name is Eva Selamar, and thank you so much for having me. This is difficult after lunch, right? But we will promise to make this as exciting and interactive as possible. The Swiss flavor lies in public-private partnership, and I'm the new kid on the block with the Financial Innovation Desk of Switzerland, because it's only my 6th month into the job, and we are in a pilot phase, we are in a building up phase, and we try to be very close to the market, to be understanding of what's going on, and then be able to position ourselves at the forefront of the technology and the developments in the financial sector.
Okay. How did your life change after you became Chief FinTech Officer?
Sure. So, above all, thank you very much for all of you to come to Tokyo and then enjoy your Japan FinTech Festival, day one. And then thank you, Sopnendu, and then all of Elevandi and my colleagues to make this happen. So, I saw a lot of you in other countries, like, Singapore FinTech Festival and then Point Zero Forum in Zurich, but it's quite surprising that I saw many of you in Tokyo in person. So that's, of course, thanks to all of you, but we are trying to change. So my message for today is FSA is not enemy to you. So FSA is more friendly for innovation regulators to industry. So we learned a lot from both countries, so we have created Chief FinTech position just 1.5 years ago. So and then we are wearing a hoodie like this. So it's quite rare that FSA officials have speak at this kind of occasion with this kind of casual wearing. So that's just that doesn't mean nothing, but it's a kind of commitment from FSA to change to more innovation regulators. So, and this opportunity is quite fantastic for us. Thank you.
Ushida-san, let's get into some substance of the topic today. One of Ravi Menon in his speech, I think the question when Sharanjit asked about balancing risk with innovation, and Ravi gave this explanation that is like from a horse carriage to a combustion engine. When we shifted, there were more accidents and there were more risk with the whole process, but we didn't go back to horse carriages because innovation has to move forward. Is there any challenge you face in Japan when you think about changing or reforming regulation, keeping in mind that there are new risks coming into the process? How do you go about it in Japan?
Sure. So I think innovation and the regulation are not trade-off, so it should be complement each other. So maybe a good example is regional banks in Japan. So our society is facing declining population, and we are facing aging society. So if they do nothing with new technologies, maybe their business will be shrinking in the future. So eventually that could lead to instabilities because their business model doesn't work maybe in 20 or 30 years. So the risks of doing nothing it's so big, in my opinion. So of course, there's a risks of adopting new technology like AI and blockchain. But we and the regulators and the industry should work together to strike a balance between innovation and then risk mitigation. So in this case, we need an enhanced dialogue.
But let me push you a little more. But I think it's okay to say in this conference, we need to work together. But we got to demonstrate in some real substance to the market. Is there any specific examples you want to share where you have made a specific change in the regulation despite risks?
Yeah, I have a good example. So it's about NFT regulation. So industry has been kind of wondering or complaining to us about what are the difference between NFT and the crypto assets. So NFT is out of financial regulation. But the crypto asset, if it's a crypto service providers, they are subject to ML safety and then other requirements. So that is critical for, especially for startups, to distinguish these two things. So that's why we amended our supervisory guidelines last year, and then we show a kind of concrete criteria about what is NFT and what is crypto assets. So we have two criteria. One is a unit price. So it's more than 1,000 yen. It's unlikely that that token can be used as a means of payment. So in that case, it should be NFT rather than crypto asset because our crypto assets are regulated under the Payment Services Act. So payment is a big factor to decide the difference. So we say 1,000 yen is one of the criteria, and then the number of token is another criteria, which is 1 million tokens. So if it's less than that, again, it's unlikely to be used as a means of payment. So that's, I think we take risks. We took risks to some extent because some kind of potentially smart guy might circumvent our regulatory requirement in any way. But we accept those risks, but more encourage innovation with blockchain technologies.
Sure. Well, shifting a bit towards competition, Eva. In one of the market gossips, if I call it that way, there seems to be a lot of competition between the regulators now. There's a Hong Kong, there's a Singapore, there's a Japan, there's a Swiss regulator. Is there a fear of regulatory arbitrage because some regulator may make their environment a little more conducive, hence it will attract more companies to get there? Will it create a sense of competition? Do you see that as a regulatory arbitrage coming out of being conducive among other fellow regulators?
Well, first of all, regulatory arbitrage is not per se bad, in my view, and competition, in my view, is a good thing. So in Switzerland, we are very much in favor of a market-driven approach, fostering competition, because that then also leads to innovation. And if regulatory arbitrage can add to that goal, that's not per se bad. That being said, on the other hand, there are international rules that need to be adhered to, coming from the FATF, coming from other organizations, and those rules, very important rules, relate to combating of money laundering, relating to combating financial terrorism, and those rules are being cascaded down in each and every country. Otherwise, you will get gray or blacklisted sooner or later. So competition is good, but there will be a level playing field at one point. And I think within that framework, the competition both should and has to take place.
Thank you. And do you agree with that?
Totally agreed. And thank you very much for raising a FATF issue. And I am co-chairing Virtual Asset Contact Group of Financial Action Task Force. So I am in charge of travel rule and then this kind of AML safety regulation for crypto. So you may feel weird because I'm in charge of both innovation and the AML safety policy. But I don't think it's a kind of contradiction because, healthy and then sustainable innovation should come with good compliance. So we need a kind of minimum global standard for each country. So some countries has no regulation at all for crypto asset service providers even now. So it's not healthy competition. So we need a kind of good level playing field, and based on that, each country and address each social agenda, and then we will have a good competition.
But it's a fact that most of the credible regulators do exchange notes behind the door. So if anybody feels they can arbitrage credible regulators, it's a bad idea. Is it good to say? We do exchange notes on the back.
And it's good that we do. It's good that we collaborate and that we exchange, because the risks that we're facing don't stop at the border.
Sure.
We have global challenges, and only by collaborating, only by exchanging knowledge, we can face those problems. So collaboration is very good, and I'm very much in favor. I think Japan, Switzerland, also Singapore, Switzerland has great examples to show in terms of collaboration. We are working together on R&D projects with our innovation parks. We're working together on the Point Zero Forum, where we have this public-private dialogue, and there are many more examples that I could add.
So I'm going to suggest an idea. Is there a need for, or can we put a global sandbox where all regulators participate, and then we can open it to companies around the world to work with this regulator? That way you remove the arbitrage opportunity, because you get a coordinated signal from everybody. Is it feasible to create a shared global sandbox? Yes, no?
It sounds very interesting, but I don't think it is feasible.
Why?
But I would say, international fora like FSB or FATF could be a, kind of, sandbox type discussion among regulators. So we have a very intense discussion under the closed door to what we should do and we shouldn't do. So
what is your fear? What are you really afraid of?
In case of FATF, it's of course,
that's okay. Keep FATF out. Let's say digital asset. If we have a global sandbox and all of us participate, what is the issue there?
Maybe, so when we say sandbox, so the definition is quite different by countries. So
that's also arbitrage opportunity.
Actually, we do have regulatory sandbox, and actually, our regulatory sandbox consulting office is open at 1 p.m. here. So you can go that desks to the kind of proof of concept in Japan, but global sandbox is, that's why, so FSA is joining GFIN, Global Financial Innovation Network.
But that's a bit of a club.
So I think what matters is more like, an enhanced engagement with industry, because, everything is not written in regulation itself. It's a supervisory judgment, so it's a kind of a sandbox.
In the long way of saying no. Okay, Eva.
You like binary answers, yes or no? I'm a trained lawyer, so my answer is it depends.
Okay.
No, kidding aside. There are already sandboxes coming to existence, and they do have the potential to become global, in my view. So there's the Project Guardian, yes, where Singapore is in spearheading.
My friend is also part of that.
Very good, very good. Then there are other projects, the Net Zero Utility
yes,
project. Then Switzerland has agreed with the UK, or the authorities pending approval of the parliaments, to recognize each other's financial market regulatory systems that could potentially be extended to other countries in terms of this blueprint. Very new, has been signed in December last year. So there are sandboxes that start coming into existence.
I think that's a good way to say. I think for the audience, like Project Guardian is an excellent example why we may not call it a sandbox, but brings multiple regulators to a common program. In this case, it is bringing interoperable ledgers and regulatory practices on digital assets. Thanks for putting this together. I think that's the way of consider a sandbox. Move to the third question, talent. Do you think we as regulators have the right talent in our own organization to deal with these smart technologists who are thinking about new product? Do we have a talent problem in our respective organization? Yes?
Yes.
Big yes.
We do have a big issues for talent. So our kind of, human resource system is not kind of flexible enough to, hire the talented people.
Flexible means more money.
Correct. So I think your country has more flexibility to hire.
Well, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah,
but
PhD talent. So we are not like that. And then, many of us, just joined FSA immediately after graduating university, including myself. So, but fortunately, in my case, I spent 2 years at Georgetown University, and then I worked with a cryptographer, and then I did research on blockchain governance and the blockchain technologies itself. So I'm very lucky about that, but definitely we need more.
So what is the issue? Is the hiring process is very old-fashioned, or there's not enough flexibility to literally hire from outside? Because you need a lot of technology background regulators now.
So I think as you mentioned, salary is a big challenge. So, let's say data scientists are in great demand in private sectors, and then we cannot compete with them. So what we could offer is, the kind of experience, let's say 2 or 3 years experiences as regulators, and then they can,
Go back.
bring that technology. But, in some countries like Singapore and the United States, it's, kind of, private sector and the public sector change quite frequently, but we are not like that. So
but do you want to be like that?
I mean, we should have more flexible system, but let's say if I leave FSA tentatively, it's quite difficult to come back to my position. So that's something maybe we
Should
might consider to change.
Eva, what do you think in Switzerland?
This looks like such a cozy lounge here, but if you're up here, you're being put on the spot here.
Yeah. Okay. What do you think? The talent issue?
Talent. So talent is important, right? To be as a startup, as an economy, to have growth, you need talent, capital, and speed. And so talent is a major pillar in that regard. First, if you have a good educational system, then that's already a lot. That helps a lot. And with the ETH, with EPFL, with all our universities in Switzerland, we are in a good position there. However, the regulator has to compete for talent in this war for talent with the private sector. And that's not always easy. In terms of compensation, right, we can't keep up. So we have to find other ways to get to the talent, to get to the knowledge. And so you have to be creative. You have to come up with other ways how to get to the talent and educate yourself. And one creative approach is to organize a hackathon and have talent come there and then use the hackathon also from an employer branding perspective as the government and try to recruit.
And it has been successful?
I will tell you after the .0 forum, because the hackathon will take place right before, from 28th to 30th of June.
Okay. But in Singapore, we have a huge experience. In fact, when I took the job as Chief FinTech Officer in 2015, the first thing I did is to create a hackathon to discover good talent. And it did play a big part in our hiring, or generally our own understanding of the space. But I do agree with Ushida-san. Part of the thing we did change in Singapore is to look at the compensation structure. I think that's the reality we got to deal with. And second thing, I think even if the compensation doesn't match to the private sector exactly, if you keep it close, there's enough incentive for people to work for regulator for 3-4 years. And that actually helps them to build their more comprehensive thinking about the sector, and they can go back with a better opportunity in the private sector. I think collectively, if we can build a pipeline by which we can bring private sector to the regulatory world, help them to build a career for 3-4 years and get them back to the industry, is an absolutely perfect situation, right?
And
sorry, go ahead.
If I may, I think also the Gen Z is probably less guided by compensation that the old folks, and is looking for more purpose-driven work, is looking for other types of benefits,
sure,
which the government again can provide and can offer. I think this is also one USP that needs to be worked on.
You're saying something, Ushida-san?
I should mention FSA is relatively young organization. It was established in late 1990, so we have just just 25 or 26 year old. So we rely on the external expert very much. So we have a good IT expert and then an
There's a Tokyo University
expert.
graduate they got like you.
So that's kind of I think we have a good mix of people already. But when it comes to emerging technology like AI and the blockchain, maybe we need more resources.
Man, if I ask the crowd, how many people want to work for regulator? How many hands will come up? Anybody wants to work for regulator? At least one brave person.
I will talk to you later.
Yeah. Hi, done. Join FSA. Now, yes. I think my last 9 years as the Chief FinTech Officer, I do believe we got to significantly upgrade our talent base. Because if you don't get it right, it's very hard to understand the market shift happening. Now, shifting to the last part of the segment. Now, there is this upcoming massive shift in the technology landscape. AI is out there. Definitely, the distributed ledger is getting much more stronger in terms of argument to change the financial systems. Then we have a change in the form of money and asset to digital assets. They're going to significantly change the financial architecture, plus the public infrastructures, underlying public goods are coming. Do you think that as a regulators, we are prepared for this massive shift in terms of future-proofing our regulation? Yes or no? And if yes, how are you getting ready?
The answer has to be yes.
Yes.
It can't be no.
Yes.
And the question is how do you get there? How are you as close as possible to the market developments that you are not being caught off guard and look into the headlight like a deer?
If I just, because you use the word called market development, does it create a conflict by its own sense as a regulator to think about market development?
No, I don't think so, because if you're not aware of the market developments, how can you then live up to your job as a regulator to provide stability, integrity, growth, consumer protection? So you have to be out there. You have to be very close. Otherwise, you're in a silo, and silos are not good. And so the answer has to be yes. And by having financial innovation desks, by having FinTech hubs, by having people that maybe have been also recruited from the private sector, you can make sure that you are close and that you're at the forefront of the things. When it comes to those technological trends, again, it's embracing. I think you don't have to be afraid. You have to understand and you have to embrace, and you also have to celebrate the possibilities. So risk is all the time also a chance. And if you have that mindset, I think you're in a good position.
I think the perimeter of financial industry is expanding. So we used to talk with traditional financial institutions like banks and the insurance companies, but nowadays, like big tech platforms are good intermediaries for financial services by embedded finance, and then we also see kind of decentralized service provision based on blockchain. So I think we have to talk to as many as stakeholders in this ecosystem. So we have to, as a regulators, I think we have to look at the whole society and what types of financial services will emerge alongside with technology. So what we should look at is not only technology, but kind of business and then people who are trying to get into the financial industry.
But I don't see, and I do see in Singapore and in Japan, the role of public consultation. I think as regulators, do you think we should increase our public consultation, allow ourselves to be more vulnerable, that we don't understand, get the market to come and work with us in framing some of the regulation? Do you think there's a space out there to do more public consultation? At least that way we understand what's happening.
I think so. So we have kind of public, formal public consultation process.
It's not a one-way traffic, right? It's both way.
Yeah, but it's of course it's both way, and then they can leave any comment to our draft guideline or draft laws. But maybe we need to increase more kind of informal, casual dialogue
like the
with
festival.
stakeholder, like this festival. So it's quite formal process if they come to JFSA office and they talk to supervisors.
Is
So
it okay to talk to JFSA?
it's not candid exchange of opinion. So that's why my team innovation office was established a few years ago to become a kind of different and a new interface with industry. So I am not in charge of supervision and registration and license, so I don't have authority for that. But instead, we can be a bridge between our supervisory colleagues and the industry. So I think that's a kind
Is
of
there a
role.
stress between you and your supervisory colleagues? Sometimes. I do have.
It's sometimes, but I should say, not only my team, but many of my colleagues at the FSA are thinking about innovation aspect, even though it seems, very kind of stringent
Indeed.
about the industry. So, what we should do, I believe, is, to enhance mutual understanding. So sometimes my supervisory colleagues do not understand technologies, but like startup people do not understand why we need this type of regulation. So that's a kind of just
Bridge.
filling the gap between two parties.
Eva, what do you think? There's a healthy tension between supervisors and innovation.
It's a two-way
Yeah.
dialogue, and I call it the concierging service. So I consider our job or the job of the Swiss Financial Innovation Desk as a concierge desk. And what does a good concierge do? First of all, he or she listens, and she understands, and she focuses on a customer, and she focuses on the problem. And only then you can start acting. You can start facilitating, connecting, solving, anticipating. But if you don't understand, if you don't listen, it's not gonna be wise.
Indeed. Now we have a couple of minutes left. What is your biggest fear as a regulator when it comes to innovation? What are you really scared of? Ushida-san, you, then Eva. Think about it, Eva. You have some time to think. Single biggest fear. What do you think in your job is?
I think the biggest fear is doing nothing and then left behind of the market development. So I always fear that maybe I don't understand everything taking place in the financial industry and the technology field. So that's something we should have as a fear as a regulator.
It's good to have fear. It helps us to think better.
I think so, because we need a consensus.
But it's also more important to admit that we have a fear. I think that's so nice of you. Let's give a big hand to Ushida-san to say that.
My concern, I wouldn't call it a fear, but my concern is that the incumbents are just too strong vis-a-vis the disruptors, and that the voices of the startups are not heard in the same way as the voices of the incumbents. And so that is a challenge. That is an ask also for the regulators to make sure that all the voices are equally being heard.
So you're saying that the disruptor voice is heard more than the incumbents?
The other way around, usually.
Okay.
That the incumbents, they have just more money, more lobbying, more standing, and the disruptors have it's an uphill battle a lot of the times. And so it's very important that even though, at least in Switzerland, we are advocating a neutral position, that nevertheless that you're making sure that you hear all the voices from the disruptors and also from the incumbents, so that you have a balance between the risks, the chances, the opportunities, and ultimately
so
to
what
strike
is your
that balance.
fear? What is your personal fear? That you will have more incumbent dominating the space. Is that your fear?
That we are not fast enough.
Fast enough.
And so that goes to the second pillar, speed, that time to market is not comparable to other countries. So in Switzerland, it's very important to me that we are fast, that also in terms of regulation, that we can be sure that we have market access, because Switzerland is such a tiny market, right? Unless you have market access,
Sure.
it's difficult.
With that word of wisdom, I think we are done with our panel. And thank to both of you to be brave enough to talk to me. I always put people in the spot, but in a good spirit. My fear is to talk to these two people. Thank you very much.